So we can unscrew the gas cylinder, make sure that it hasn't been pierced at all. There'd be a little hole in it if it had. We can also check. This is a 275, so yeah, it's fairly well inflated. So my name's Charlie and I'm a director and instructor at Ardent Training. I'm also crew and navigator on a lifeboat up on the west coast of Scotland. And so yeah, I'm going to take you through these few points today. So we've got a few different types of life jacket. It's important you're using the right one for your needs. It's important that it fits well to make sure that it doesn't come off if ever it does inflate. And if you do need to inflate it, what happens next? It's really then important to inspect your life jacket and make sure that you know how to surface it and make sure you know how it keeps up to the mark in terms of all the equipment that's on it, making sure that the light works, making sure that it inflates when you need it to. And we're also going to talk a little bit about when to wear your life jacket. So first off, buoyancy aids versus life jackets. This one is a buoyancy aid. The rest here, the other three, are all life jackets. The buoyancy aid keeps the wearer afloat, and you're going to use those in any activity that you're likely to get a bit wet. Life jackets, on the other hand, are designed to keep your head and airways up above water. So if you're knocked unconscious and you're wearing a buoyancy aid, you could be face down in the water. If you're knocked unconscious and you're wearing a life jacket, you should be face up and still able to breathe. If you're on a jet ski, maybe a sailing dinghy, then a buoyancy aid is what you're going to be using primarily. If you're expecting to stay dry on things like ribs or sailing yachts or motor yachts or big power boats like this one here, then you're going to be looking to wear a life jacket. So with life jackets, there's a few different buoyancy ratings. 150 and 170 newtons are smaller life jackets, a bit more comfortable to wear, but they don't keep you quite as buoyant in the water. So these aren't to do with the size of the person, they're to do with the conditions you're in and what the user is wearing. So sunny sailing, calm conditions, shorts and t-shirt, then the 150, 170 is going to be the one for you. If you're doing more offshore stuff, maybe rougher crossings, maybe you're head to toe in thick sailing gear to keep you nice and warm and dry, then you're going to need the 275 Newton one. And we've got one of those here to show you later on. Ultimately, the best life jacket is the one you're actually going to use. So there's no point getting a 275 thinking it's got all the bells and whistles, but you actually don't use it because you're only sailing in sunny, calm weather and it's a bit heavy and less comfortable to wear. So it's important that the one you do choose fits you well, it's fitted to you, and it's got the right Newton rating for your intended purpose. There are a couple of different inflation types to go through. So we have manual inflations. The two on the right here, the red one and the blue one, both have a manual toggle which you can pull. That releases a pin into a gas canister and your whole life jacket inflates. Air fills the bladders and that is what's keeping you afloat and keeping your airways out in the air. The blue one also has an automatic inflation. So this has a small salt crystal. As soon as that is submerged in the water, that dissolves and sends a pin through the gas canister and it inflates without you having to pull the toggle. These automatic inflation ones also do have a manual override, so if you do get in the water and it doesn't inflate, you can still pull down on the manual option and it will inflate. It's also possible to get ones that don't need to inflate. So this yellow one here, a child's life jacket, already has sponge and floating materials in both sides. And you'll often see these on big ships. You might see a big cupboard full of orange adult-sized life jackets. These ones are life jackets because they're keeping your airways up above the water, but they don't need to inflate. So now then, we'll look at the fit, and Andy's going to be our glamorous assistant here and try this one on. There's a few things to think through when we are fitting a life jacket. Once we've decided that in this case, Andy's going to do some offshore racing, so he's opted for the 275 Newton one. We've got a buckle to put on there, so you can go ahead and do that, Andy. And then we need to make sure that it fits around the waist. So we want it to be nice and snug, not too tight. By pulling the back straps there, we can snug it up. And we want to have about a chest's room behind the buckle there. That's because when it inflates, it will inflate inwards slightly as well. And so you need to have a little bit of breathing space in there. It's important that if the day and the weather does improve and you might shed a layer, you might need to tighten your life jacket up a bit. Yeah, you don't want to have a baggy life jacket once you've taken off your thick sailing jacket. We've also got crotch straps here. These are really important because putting these on means that if the life jacket does inflate, it's not going to float off over your head and drop you out of the bottom. So it's crucial that life jackets have crotch straps if you're doing more offshore stuff, and that they're always clipped on if you're wearing the life jacket. Otherwise, it makes the life jacket fairly useless in a worst case scenario. So looking through some of the features, on the outside of the life jacket, we've got the red toggle on the right-hand side for the manual inflation. We've also got possibly the most useful feature, which is this orange or high-vis yellow strap there. That is what you can attach your safety tether to, so you can clip onto that and clip onto your vessel. And the best option when wearing a life jacket is to not have to use it. And so using the safety strap means that you stay attached to the boat, and ideally you don't go over the side at all. So next up, we need to look at some features on the inside. So let's inflate the life jacket. Are you ready, Andy? 3, 2, 1. This is a 275, so yeah, it's fairly well inflated. And let's have a look through some of the features. We've got reflective tape on each side here. That is really useful to picking out a casualty. It might seem obvious. I've been on many lifeboat training exercises and in real life, looking in the pitch darkness. As soon as something's got that ISO tape on it, it sends that light back to you really easily, and it's so much easier to spot something in the water. We also have a lifting strop on this side, dangling down here. That's not to do any sort of heroic helicopter lifts or anything like that. It's just to get the casualty back on board. Yachts can often have up to a couple of meters of freeboard, and so it can be really difficult to get the casualty back on board. And so a lifting strop is there to aid you in doing so. There is a whistle on all life jackets as well. This is important, perhaps more important than it seems. Having a really high frequency whistle cuts through any deep sounds. It's a noisy place at sea. We've got engines running, waves crashing, wind noise, shouting for help. Will get lost in all of that sound. But a whistle, the frequency of a whistle cuts through those sounds really clearly. We also have a light here on this side, and this will start flashing as soon as it makes contact with the water. It completes the circuit, and so that light will be flashing away there. It's important to look at the expiry dates of a light. It's about the only piece of kit on your life jacket that has an expiry date, and that's because of the battery inside it. This model also has a spray hood. And this is really important if you're in any kind of sea. So with your life jacket, it's keeping your airways clear, but if you've got breaking waves and spray over your head, there's a real likelihood of swallowing some water, which can lead quite easily to primary or secondary drowning. So having a spray hood is there to keep the airways clear. It's often an added extra, so if you're looking to do some offshore sailing or on your powerboat and things like that in more challenging conditions, then it's definitely a needed addition. You can take that off, Andy, feel free. It can't be that pleasant in there. Another added extra, which isn't on this one, is a PLB, and we'll touch on PLBs in a coming slide, but a personal locator beacon. So a little electronic device which sends a signal to the Coast Guard or to your vessel and ensures that you can be located really easily and found. On the left side there, you've also got a blowpipe. So this, if you need to inflate your life jacket, you can always top it up, and it's also the way to deflate it. So you can go ahead and deflate it, Andy. You might want to do this if you're getting into a life raft. You don't want to take your life jackets off, but it's pretty crammed in those things, so you can always deflate it a little bit and then blow it up by mouth if you need to. So a little true story then of a fisherman. A couple of years ago now, in the UK, there were two of them on board, a skipper and his mate. As fishermen do, they get up pretty early and they head out for a set distance to their creeling location or their preferred fishing ground. This early morning, the skipper was going down for his morning nap. Once he'd set the boat straight, the crew was up keeping watch, and the skipper went to lie down and have 40 winks. Not long into their passage out to the creeling ground, the crewman noticed that there was this banging on the back of the hull. And had a little look and saw that there was a bit of the fishing gear and a hook over the side of the back of the vessel, making a bit of a noise and could be an issue. So luckily he went back into the wheelhouse, he got his life jacket, put it on, went out onto the back deck to have a look. But as he was looking at this and resolving the issue, he actually fell overboard with the boat motoring ahead at 10 knots with a skipper asleep. Luckily, he was wearing a life jacket that inflated with its automatic inflation that we've just seen with Andy here, meant that he was up in the water, his airways were clear, he wasn't at immediate risk of drowning. However, he was in frigid, cold UK waters, so it was a matter of time until his life ran out. Luckily, he did have a PLB on board, and so that sent its signal of a man overboard distress to the Coast Guard, who then coordinated a helicopter response. The crew member was in the water for over an hour, but lifted out through a helicopter Coast Guard rescue. The fisherman obviously woke up, wondered where his crewmate was, and this is them sort of reunited back again. But the crew member is a strong advocate now for wearing PLBs and your life jackets, because without both of those pieces of equipment, he'd either have drowned or he'd have stayed floating but just not been found. So when we go on to checking our life jackets, there's plenty of things to do. We can buy a life jacket, keep it in a cupboard for years, and never look at it. But how do we know that it's in good condition and that we can trust our lives on it? So looking at the red life jacket here, first off, we're just going to look at buckles of the fabric. This is a fairly old and used one, and on the back, you can see the black webbing is slightly faded. It's had plenty of UV and salt spray over the years, but it's not too bad condition. I can't see any signs of fraying material. It looks like it can definitely do a few more seasons, but it's something to be aware of, that we might have to replace the webbing on this strap. To keep on top of that, it's always important when we get back in after a day's sail or whatever activity we're doing to make sure that we hose it down with fresh water, make sure we get all the salt off it, make sure it's dried properly before we stow it away. The front buckle there, metal looks pretty shiny, there's no pitting or corrosion or rust on it, so that looks in fairly good nick. And then we can also look at some of the stitching and seams, and we can also look at the zip, and as we undo the zip to look inside, we can just look at the stitching all around it to make sure that none of it's fraying and that it looks fairly solid. When we do get inside, we've got the bladder that opens up. We want to check that as well. Even if we haven't used our life jacket, it's been outside sitting in UV. UV will go through the outer fabric to some extent. So with those reflective strips, we can check they're not brittle. We can check that tape isn't peeling off. And we're also looking just at the quality of the bladder itself. The ultimate test to really do, and it will give much more away than our eyes, is to blow it up with the mouthpiece. You don't have to use up an expensive canister. You can just blow it up by mouthpiece, leave it overnight, and check that it's still solid in the morning. This life jacket was tested fairly recently, and I think it works well. We had a student come to our stand who said that they'd done this halfway through the season, and actually it had deflated overnight. So you want to do this kind of test definitely at the start of each season, but maybe partway through the season as well, depending on how much use you're putting your equipment through. Another crucial bit of kit is the gas cylinder. So this is a manual inflation only. It doesn't have that automatic device attached, but it does have a gas cylinder. So we can unscrew the gas cylinder, make sure that it hasn't been pierced at all. There'd be a little hole in it if it had. We can also check the outside of it and make sure that there isn't any pitting, any signs of rust. This one looks in fairly good condition. Cylinders don't have an expiry date, they just have a manufactured date. So you can see when it was manufactured, but it's kind of up to you to decide if it's still fit for purpose. And a really good test to do is each cylinder will have a weight on it. Get your kitchen scales out and make sure it's still matching that weight. I think this one is a 38 milliliters or 38 grams. And so if it's coming in at 35, 33 grams, it's obviously lost a bit of pressure. And so you'd be wise to get a new one. And you can just hold up the two ends there, and you can see the one on my side has obviously got a hole in it, and the other one does not. So one's been detonated and used up, and the other one is still good to go. We've got lights and whistles which need testing. As I said earlier, lights do have an expiry date, and that's because of the battery. So it's important to change your battery or change the whole light. It comes in one unit. But you can also test it. So often if you lick your finger and you place it across the two metal points, completes the circuit and the light should flash. And you have to press the button again to turn it off. Make sure you do turn it off, because otherwise it will just be flashing away, tucked inside your life jacket and run out of battery. Life jackets are notoriously a bit of a pain to put away, and that's probably a reason why some of us avoid servicing it. But each life jacket manufacturer will have a set of instructions to pack it away properly, and it's important that you do so, and that's to avoid any points of wear within the bladder. So make sure you pack it away really carefully. If there are instructions for your life jacket, you can either get them from the manufacturer or probably find them online now. And it's important just to follow those instructions. Make sure your life jacket is put away properly so that when you need to use it, it all inflates as it should and doesn't degrade the quality of the materials once it's tucked away. So when to wear one, this is ultimately up to you as either crew or skipper, but a few things we might want to consider. So one is the likelihood of us going overboard. If we're in a big yacht with a centre cockpit, maybe the bimini's up around us or something like that, it's unlikely that we're going to go overboard. Maybe on a flat sunny day, you say you don't need to wear your life jacket if you're in the centre cockpit, but actually if you go out on deck, if you need to check something on the foredeck, then put it on. And that's because your likelihood of going over the side is increased. We also need to think about ease of rescue. I gave a few examples earlier of when using the 275 in bigger seas. It's got more buoyancy. It keeps you up out of the, on top of the sort of big swelling waves. It's going to be much harder to pick someone up out of rougher, windier conditions. So if you're going into unfavourable conditions, it's always worth putting your life jacket on. And yeah, if you've got PLBs, definitely use them in those scenarios. If you're sailing in the Mediterranean, it's a beautiful, calm day, you're doing some slow sailing, you've stopped for a lunch swim, you're close to shore, perhaps there's less need to wear a life jacket. And it also depends what crew you're leaving on the boat. If it's the skipper going over the side, could you be waiting there a long, long time? If it's one of the crew, the skipper's still on board, hopefully they can get back to you quite quickly. Lastly then, we need to think of the consequences of not wearing a life jacket. For the story with the fisherman there, the consequences of him not wearing that life jacket would have been that he would have died. So what are the chances of you being found if you're not wearing a life jacket? how does that impact, your rescue and getting somewhere safe. That's it for this talk, but thank you for lingering on, and all the best. Cheers.
Okay, Charlie, when the house bears about 270 degrees.
Information to work out our distance from the lighthouse and use that.
We might be perfectly on track, but if we're not on time...
Have a look, I've got my phone here at the effect it has on our steering compass.
So our echo sound is working, we can find a contour and follow it nicely into port.
We've got a nice reflective hood that allows her to keep the warmth in her head, keeps her head dry.